सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ॐ परं वरिष्ठम् इष्टं परमानन्दरूपिणम् परमार्थानन्दयतिं सद्गुरुं प्रणतोऽस्म्यहम्। So, with verse 82, the teaching of Vedanta is actually complete. So, a spiritual seeker has to receive the Vedantic knowledge by going through 3 exercises known as Shravanam, Mananam, and Nididhyasanam. Shravanam is for Ajnana Nivritti or Jnana Prapti. So, Shravanam gives Aparoksha Jnanam or direct knowledge about self. Mananam is not meant for Jnanam, but is for removing doubts regarding the teaching. So, through Mananam, the knowledge already gained becomes doubtless knowledge. Then finally, Nididhyasanam. This exercise is also not meant for knowledge, but it is for overcoming another obstacle in the form of Viparyaya or Viparita Bhavana, overcoming the habitual thinking process. When that also is removed and knowledge gets internalized, assimilated, then it will become doubt-free, habit-free knowledge. So, Samshaya Viparyaya Rahita Jnanam. So, this knowledge is called Jnana Nishtha, and only when Jnanam becomes Jnana Nishtha, it will be able to give us the result or benefit of Jnanam. Therefore, Jnana Nishtha is important for reaping the result, and such a person is called Sthita Prajnaha. So, Sthita Prajna or Jnana Nishtha, all of them refer to the same thing. So in verse 83, Shankaracharya said, the one who has gone through all the 3 exercises, the Shravanam, Mananam, and Nididhyasanam, he becomes a Sthita Prajna. He reaps the result of this knowledge, which is Jivan Muktihi. So Jivan Muktihi is freedom from samsara, and I explained that samsara is of 2 types, intellectual samsara and emotional samsara. The intellectual samsara goes away when the self-ignorance and self-misconception goes away through acquisition of knowledge, through jnanam. So the second one called emotional samsara, which is the result of intellectual samsara, it has various forms of emotional problems, etc. That will also go away once the person understands that I am not the jiva that I think of, but actually I am Brahman, right? So, Jivan Mukti is freedom from both intellectual and emotional samsara. So, we completed verse 85 in the last class. So, we've completed 3 verses pertaining to Jivan Mukti Phalam. So, Brahmatmano Shoditayo Ekabhavavagahini Nirvikalpacha Chinmatra Vrittik Pragneti Katyate Samsthita Sa Bhavedyasya Jivan Muktasya Uchyate. So, the Antakarana Vritti, whose object is oneness between Jiva and Ishvara, which is in the form of consciousness, it is free from subject-object duality, is called Prajna. So, he for whom this knowledge is firm is called a Jivan Mukta, liberated white living. Yasya sthita bhaved prajna yasyanando nirantaraha prapancho vismrita prayaha sa Jivan Mukta ishyate. So, a person whose knowledge is clear and whose ananda is continuous and for whom the world is more or less forgotten, right? All the anatmas. Such a person is Jivan Mukta. Vartamanepi dehesmin chaya vadanu vartini ahanta mamata bhavaha Jivan Muktasya lakshanam. So, the characteristic mark or a Jivan Mukta is identified by the absence of this I and my sense, ahankara and mamakara, while he remains in the body, right? And body actually follows him like a shadow. So we completed up to verse 85. So continuing. Atitananusandanam
Atitananusandanam
Bhavishyada vicharanam
Bhavishyata vicharanam
Audasinyamapi prapte
Audasinyamapi prapte
Jivan muktasya lakshanam.
Jivan muktasya lakshanam.
So here the Acharya is talking about two beautiful faculties of human beings, uniquely well developed in humans alone, that you will see. What is that? The first faculty is Atita Ananusandhanam. So, Atita Ananusandhanam. Atita means past. Anusandhanam means recollection or memory. So, the faculty of remembering the past is a faculty a human being has. Okay, and the second faculty is Bhavishyat Vicharanam. That is thinking of the future, right? So, in the shloka, Avicharanam is there, right? Avicharanam. Here, what I'm explaining is Vicharanam. That means thinking. So, Bhavishyat Avicharanam means the capacity to think of the future or visualize the future is Vicharanam. So, projecting the future, predicting possible outcomes, taking precautionary measures, planning, etc. Right? So, very important capacity. Bhavishyat Vicharanam, right? So, but here, what are we talking about? So, there are two things that are going to be discussed: past remembering faculty and future visualizing faculty, both. Now, the remembering of the past, that faculty is a fantastic faculty. In fact, all our transactions are possible because of that only. For instance, you understand what I speak and I understand what you speak because we remember the words of the language, right? So it is a very wonderful faculty. We are able to interact with each other. We are able to operate the laptop. We are able to operate any gadget for that matter, only because we remember the past. And as Swamiji says, we don't put salt in the payasam, right? Or maybe sugar in some rasam or something, right? So that is because every transaction is possible because of that smriti, that remembrance, that shakti. So in Chandogya Upanishad, in fact, in Bhuma Vidya, the memory meditation itself is there, and the glory of memory is talked about, right? Smaro vava kashad bhu yaha tasmad yadyapi. There's a memory upasana there, right? So there are a lot of people who have lost their memory faculty and are struggling with it. So it's a wonderful faculty if it is used properly. But the same memory becomes terrible if I recollect the past for wrong reasons, in what all ways different people have hurt me. Actually, when you look around yourself, inclusive of you, right? Each one has this hurt feeling due to some reason or the other, right? Now, this memory faculty, which is helpful otherwise, is also troubling us because of this reason. Because that we have harbor those hurt feelings with X or Y or Z. In fact, you can see some children between siblings, they will feel that my parents did something to my sibling, but they didn't take care of me as well. Some people harbor this with parents. Some people harbor this feeling with parents, in-laws. It is very difficult to forget that hurt, and sometimes it is guilt because you feel you haven't done something enough, right? So all this comes from that memory faculty, right? So, in fact, this is a very different type of samsara, which manifests more with older age, right? Because the more number of years you have to ruminate over this, what all could have gone wrong, etc. So, kimaham sadhuna karavam, kimaham papa makaramamiti. We saw this in Taittiriya Upanishad. In fact, the Brahmananda Valli ends with this. So, This is very common samsara. Why did I not do proper actions? Why did I do improper actions, right? Such thoughts, which normally torment people. A person in Taittiriya Upanishad, it is referring to a person who is a jnana-nishta, a jnani. For such a person, he doesn't have these kind of problems at all, right? So, Brahmananda Valli ends this way, right? So, regret and worry, both. And as Swamiji says, it's a federal problem. FE standing for fear, DE for depression, RE is regrets, and L, of course, loneliness, which hurts in the older age, right? So, especially when Swamiji keeps taking this example of when somebody is lying in the ICU with nobody coming in and seeing you, and you're on ventilator or something, and all these thoughts come in, right? So the federal problem is real, right? And that acronym is useful to remember: fear, depression, regrets, and loneliness, right? So especially when I'm alone and I'm lying all alone, I regret and feel miserable, or I worry about the future, right? So instead, can I spend this time remembering the teaching, or can I practice nididhyasanam and prepare my mind to spend time wonderfully, right? Otherwise, the future can become a curse, right? And the younger people can end up thinking right from 50, how will my old age be? My children are not around, right? Should I go to a senior citizen home? What all problems can come, etc. Right? So this future visualizing faculty also can be a blessing. It could have been a major strength in our younger days when we were working and we were trying to do a lot of things, right? And planning for the future, strategizing, etc. But that can become a curse also, right? So a Jivan Mukta is one who has learned to use both faculties beautifully, but he doesn't regret about the past, he doesn't fear the future, and he enjoys the present. So now I am alive, I can enjoy my glory as taught by the scriptures. I am not a Jiva, I am Brahman. I alone with my Maya Shakti have created everything. Okay, beautiful children I've had, they will come, they will go, right? They will do good things, they will do bad things, fine, right? But I remember the glory of myself, both the Saguna glory as well as the Nirguna glory, and with Maya and without Maya. And I prepare very well through Shravanam, Mananam, and Nididhyasanam that this teaching is well ingrained in my mind, right? So this jnani of the Vivekachudamani is being described that way, right? So, Atita Ananusandhanam. He does not regret over the past, right? Anusandhanam is remembering. Ananusandhanam, he doesn't regret over the past. And if at all he remembers the past, he remembers the teaching he received in the past, right? He doesn't remember all those small petty quarrels with people and all that. He's gotten over all of that, right? So, Atita Ananusandhanam means not regretting over the past. And then Bhavishyat Avicharanam. Not thinking about how will my old age be, which disease will come, how will the degeneration happen, etc. A jnani refuses, right, to think about this, because even as a karma yogi, he has practiced this, right? What? The last week's shloka that I quoted from Mukundamala, Yadyad bhavyam tad bhavatu bhagavan purva karmanurupam. Let it happen, whatever has to happen. I am not worrying, I am not fearing, right? Then prapte api audasinam, senyam. So now we talked about the past and the future. Now the interactions in the present, right? Which is very fleeting. This particular second is present. The second that went by is past, and the second that's going to come up is future, right? So depending on one's prarabdha, the present can bring good experience, beautiful experience, or whatever, right? So we can decide whether we want to develop raga or dvesha based on the experiences that we are having. And therefore, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Na praharshet priyam prapya, no dvijet prapya cha priyam. Cha priyam, that is, okay, the second part. So when any good experience comes, enjoy, all right, but na praharshet, don't over enjoy and get hooked onto that, get attached to it, right? So don't develop raga towards that, right? Because this enjoyment will also go away. That is the nature of pratibimba ananda or reflected consciousness. It will have to go, right? So faculties go away. So na praharshet. Agate swagatam kuryat gachantam na nivarayet. A very famous Sanskrit shloka. We don't know who has written it, but it's quoted very often. So welcome it when it comes, and when it goes away, let it go, right? Don't develop that undue attachment. That is the attitude of the jnani. So this is called audasinyam. Literally, if you translate, it means indifference, but it is indifference comes with a negative connotation. So I would say being neutral, not getting stuck, and just allowing things to flow on, right? So that is audasinyam, and avoidance of raga dvesha with regard to the present. Api prapte. Prapte means with regard to present that has just come, right? Practicing this neutral mentality. So many sattvic people, if you see, they come to spirituality and then they see news like animal abuse and, right now we are seeing a lot of issues around us on weather and climatic changes, etc., right? And then we start thinking, oh, so much of conversions and so many things. And there's so much bad happening around us. And then we start worrying what will happen to Hinduism, it's so unhealthy, etc., right? So what should our attitude be towards it? If we can do something about it, fine. But otherwise, we need not worry about these things too much also, because many people are depressed because of what is happening around, and that is actually sattvika samsara. That's all. A different kind of samsara, which is a noble samsara, right? So because they have personal values, they can't handle this. But what does Krishna says? He says this bondage is also caused by sattva guna. So if you want to avoid this worry, you have to leave the macro, the samashti, to Bhagavan. It is his job, right? So a beautiful saying actually Swamiji quotes, light a candle instead of cursing the darkness, right? By cursing the darkness, it's not going to go, but lighting a lamp will definitely bring in light and remove the darkness, right? So especially nowadays when we see so much of negativity around us, right, and negative news around us, we can only pray, Sarve bhavantu sukhinaha, Sarve santu niramayaha, instead of lamenting and unnecessarily getting too bogged down by it, right? So I'm not saying you shouldn't show compassion, right? We shouldn't misunderstand that. So a jnani is one who is kind of neutral to all of that, and indifferent is the literal meaning. And prapte api audasinyam vishaye, right? With regard to arriving things or with regard to anything that's experienced, he avoids ragadvesha. Jivan muktasya lakshanam. What a wonderful mind he must be having. So, atitan anusandhanam bhavishyad avicharanam audasinyam api prapte jivan muktasya lakshanam. Continuing. Gunadosha vishishtesmin
गुणदोषविशिष्टेऽस्मिन्
स्वभावेन विलक्षणे
स्वभावेन विलक्षणे
सर्वत्र समदर्शित्वम्
सर्वत्र समदर्शित्वम्
जीवन्मुक्तस्य लक्षणम्.
जीवन्मुक्तस्य लक्षणम्.
Even after gaining Atmajnanam, because of Prarabdha, the body continues. And as long as the body continues, whether I like it or not, I have to experience all the Anatmas. Although I know personally that Anatma is not there in all the 3 periods of time, Anatma being Mithya, even though it is really not there, it will continue to appear like dream. It will continue to be there, right? And the nature of Mithya Nature of anatma is it will always have good and bad. That's because the entire creation is born out of the samashti karma of all living beings, and Bhagavan has not created this particular universe or this particular, earth just out of his likes and dislikes. He has created it in line with the samashti karma, the law of karma aggregated at the universal level, right? So Bhagavan creates the world based on the prarabdha, not of the world, but of the jivas put together, right? So, and the human being is continuously contributing to the agami also. So every human being is contributing, and of course he has got a free will. But often the free will is governed by his ragadvesha and not dharma and adharma. So when such human beings are there, whose free will is dominated by ragadvesha, they violate dharma also. And therefore, there will be good people who are guided by dharma and adharma. There will be bad people who will be totally guided by their ragadvesha. Right? So, in prarabdha also we have two types, punyam and papam. Therefore, the world will never be perfect. So, if you see, even in Treta Yuga, even during Ramayana time, there was a Ravana who took sannyasi vesha and abducted Sita. In Krita Yuga also, Vedas were stolen. You read this in the Puranas, right? So, in every Yuga, you had good and bad people, right? So, a jnani also, when he reads, right, the newspapers and all, he feels, oh my God, there is a war going on here, the war going on in Russia, Ukraine, Israel, all of that, right? So he is also going to see that, and he has to make sure that his mind is samam or equanimous amidst all this turbulence, right? So he has to look at everything as Bhagavan's work, Vishwarupa Ishvara. So the jnani sees everything as Brahman plus Mithya Nama Rupa. So whether you call it Vishwarupa Ishvara or you call it Brahman with Mithya Nama Rupa, everything is basically the same, right? So Lord Krishna uses the word nirdvandho nitya sattvastaha niryogakshema atmavan. So learn to keep the mind sama and in and through all this vishama anubhava that you are having, right? So Vedantic meditation includes not only meditation on Brahman, very important point, okay? But also the mithyatvam of Jagat. The dhyanam is also on the mithyatvam of the world, right? That is also an intrinsic part of the Vedantic meditation. So in this meditation, he registers the features of the world. And 6 features we normally highlight, right? So first one, which is what is picked up here, is guna dosha vishishte. The world is a mixed bag consisting of both good and bad, right? So because the world is a product of prarabdha punya papam of the entire humanity, right? So, and prarabdham is a mixture of both punyam and papam. And now that the humanity is engaged in various activities, continuously agami punyam and papam is also being produced. So this is one, guna dosha vishishte, good and bad events and experiences. The second feature that is generally talked about is the whole world is a mixture of karyam and karanam, causes and effects. Parents are cause, children are effect. And the world is a mixture. So our children are karyam, but they themselves will become karanam because of their children. So this karanam and karyam will constantly get interchanged. Similarly, mixture of guna dosha will also get interchanged, right? The dosha becomes guna becomes dosha, etc. Right? So guna dosha pair, karya karana pair, they get interchanged. And third one is consequence of that. So basically, it is everything in the world, which is like past or future, is a result of all of this, right? So the bhutam and the bhavyam, bhutam is the past and bhavyam is the future. So that is also a result of this only. So guna, dosha, karya, karana, bhuta, bhavya. So these are the 6 features of the universe. And jnani is intensely aware of this, right? He knows this. And all our instruments are designed to appreciate or experience this world of 6 features only. And Vedanta is a unique source of knowledge which introduces another thing which is diagonally opposite to that of the world, right? Which is different from these 6 features. So in Kathopanishad, Nachiketas asks, right? Anyatra dharmat, anyatra adharmat, right? So that is what exactly where this shloka from 1 to 14 in Kathopanishad. Anyatrasmat krita kritat, anyatra bhutacha bhavyacha yattat pashyasi tadvada. Tadvada. He is asking Yamadharma Raja, please tell me, right? I hear that there is an extraordinary principle which is beyond these 6, right? So, and then of course, Yamadharma Raja goes on to give the Atma Vidya, etc. So, Brahma Atma Tattvam, which is in and through this world, we have to appreciate through the Jnana Chakshuhu or Vedanta Chakshuhu. So that is why we call it the third eye. Thus, a Jnani through Shavanam, Mananam and Nididhyasanam gets a Jnana Chakshu, and through which he appreciates the Brahma Atma, basically the Sachidananda Swarupam, all of that he is able to appreciate because of the Jnana Chakshu. He doesn't see Atma, Anatma. For him, everything is Atma only, which is ever the same. Samam Brahma, Nirdosham Brahma, Nirgunam Brahma, Karyakarana Vilakshana Brahma, Bhutabhavya Vilakshana Brahma. So he is always aware of this Atma, right? And this is the holistic vision that he has. He knows Anatma Prapancha. He knows Atma Tattvam also. And that is what is said here. Guna Dosha Vishishte Asmin Jagata. In this world, which is characterized by good and bad, cause and effect, past and future, right? All these. He's basically referring to this mantra here. Swabhavena Vilakshane. Not only this world is pluralistic world, every single object or living being in this world is different from everything else, right? So even our thumb impression, for instance, is different, right? From one human being to another. So every object has got Sajatiya, Vijatiya and Swagata Bedaha. So if you take 2 animals belonging to the animal species, the 2 members will be different. Like one is horse, one is cow, another is buffalo. So that's Sajatiya Beda, right? Then you also, that is 2 members belonging to the same species. Now you talk about difference between animal and plant, Vijatiya Beda, right? So plant and plant, animals and animals will be Sajatiya Beda. Vijatiya Beda will be animal and plant, etc. And Swagata Beda is within our own body. For instance, the hand and legs, there are internal differences, right? So that is Swagata Beda. Whereas Brahma here, Brahmatma is an extraordinary principle which is free from Bhedatrayam, right? So which is Advaitam, Bhedarahitam, right? So Jnani is constantly aware of all this. So Swabhavena Vilakshane. Swabhavena means by its very nature, world is Vilakshanam. When we say Vilakshanam, it means all these things. That's why I had to speak about the Sajatiya, Vijatiya, Swagata Vedaha, right? And that means endowed with these threefold differences. And who is a Jivan Mukta? In and through all of them. Sarvatra Samadarshitvam. In and through these Vilakshanams, Vishamam, differences, the uniform Brahman in the form of existence everywhere he sees, right? So whenever you talk about an object like a wall is existent, wall is known, right? That is consciousness. So the easiness and knownness pervades every object, right? So consciousness principle, existence principle is samam, basically. You cannot talk about the object, the easiness, the knownness, the existence and consciousness principle, right? Is samam across all of them. Without that, you cannot even talk about the object. Therefore, sarvatra, in every experience, every object, pratibodha viditam matam, samadarshitvam is jivan muktasya lakshanam. You see sarvatra samadarshanam. That is equanimity everywhere, right? In Bhagavad Gita, we saw Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Gavihastini Shunichaiva Shvapakecha Pandita Samadarshinaha. In the 5th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, we saw everybody is the same, right? Sukrin, Mitra, Yudasina, Madhyastha, Dveshya, Bandhushu. Sadhushvapi cha papeshu samabuddhir vishishyate. So the Samadarsanam is a uniqueness of Jnani in and through the experience. He's the same with respect to anybody, no friend, foe, nothing, right? So he knows that Vishwam Darpana Drishyamana Nagari. He knows world is a movie, right? Enjoy the movie, but be aware. He knows that it's constantly like a Shruti. So that is Jivan Muktaha. And because of this holistic vision, right? What is the advantage that he enjoys, right? He is able to stay calm in and through all the turbulences that could hit him, right? So, Gunadosha Vishishtesmin Swabhavena Vilakshane Sarvatra Samadarshitvam Jivan Muktasya Lakshanam. So the advantage and Jnani enjoys is beautifully presented in the next shloka. Ishtanishtartha samprapto
इष्टानिष्टार्थसम्प्राप्तौ
Samadarshitayatmani
समदर्शितयात्मनि
Ubhayatravikaritvam
उभयत्राविकारित्वम्
Jivan Muktasya Lakshanam.
जीवन्मुक्तस्य लक्षणम्.
So, in the previous shloka, his jnanam status and intellectual status, the status of his mind was discussed, right? So, then there is a consequent emotional advantage. So, that emotional advantage or emotional liberation, because he's anchored in this Samam Brahma, right, which is stable, whereas the whole world is unstable and constantly changing, which is giving experiences which are good and bad, like a roller coaster, right? So the Jnani has got a stable anchor, and that anchor is Brahman or Atma, right? And Swamiji always gives this example. I think it's some time since I quoted this. He talks about the chain in the Haridwar Ganges. Any of you who's had a bath or a dip in the Ganges will realize what that is. The flow is so high there, right? And very powerful. But you want to take a dip in Ganges, if you hold on to this chain, right, which is anchored firmly, and then you take a dip, you feel really great. Without it, obviously, if you take a dip, it will take you away, and maybe you will reach Calcutta in no time, right? But holding on to this chain and having a dip, right? So Swamiji compares a Jivan Mukta with this kind of experience, saying he holds on to this firm anchor called Brahman or Atma, right? So even when there is this violent thing, water flowing, etc., amidst that the person is stable, right? So the whole world and the whole life is compared to that, right? So intelligent person is one who looks for an anchor. No member in the family can be an anchor because that availability is belief that the availability of that person is indefinite is itself a problem. Nothing is stable, right? So an intelligent human being looks for an anchor first, even before starting the old age. So we think that Vedanta is for old age, the normal people, right? That's why I talked about, is Vedanta a post-retirement hobby? When should you be using the learnings of the Vedanta? When you're in active work life, when you're bringing up children, when you're having your problems, right? In-laws, parents, old age, all of that. Not when you don't get into Vedanta when you're really old, right? And I really wish that everybody had this exposure at least so that they can make a conscious decision to get into this early on in life, right? So if we have this anchor early on, it helps us move through the batterings of the life that the life brings to us, right? And the emotional balance can be maintained, and we can do that only when we have such an anchor. So ishtartha samprapto. Ishtam means like things. Anishtam means what I don't like, right? So I divide the whole world into liked and unliked, not disliked things, right? So, and life is a continuous battle, right? And it's an unfair, very interesting. Swamiji says it's an unfair boxing competition where the prarabdha is on one side and you are there on the other side, and you're actually blindfolded, and then you are trying to box the other person, right? So it's an absolutely unfair match, unfair, unbalanced boxing match, because I can't see the prarabdha, right? So ishta anishta artha samprapto, caused by desha kala and prarabdha, continuously throwing challenges in life. The jnani, right, who's anchored in samadarsanam, samam means the same, equanimity, Brahman and Atma. So, Brahma Darshanam or Atma Darshanam, basically seeing oneness and with Atma, then there is no turbulence. Avikaritvam is not there in the mind, in the Antakaranam. Antakarane Avikaritvam. So, Atmani here means Antakarane. In the mind, there is no turbulence. There's no turmoil. All emotions are manageable, and as we frequently say, talk about this FIR reduction, right? So the biggest advantage is FIR reduction. And Krishna says, Na prahrashyet priyam prapya, no dvijet prapya chapriyam. So when good experience comes, he's not overexcited. When he has problems also, he is not overly affected. That is the advantage. He is neutral, right? So, jatasya hi dhruvo mrityuhu dhruvam janma mritasya cha. People will be born in the family, people will die in the family, both will be there. So, remaining in the Atma, understand both Ishtam and Anishtam, Janma and Marana. They are natural features of the world. So, nobody, including Bhagavan, can change the nature of the world. That is why Krishna told Arjuna, Tasmat apariharye arte. Even I cannot change the war, right? Because he knew that Arjuna is going to lose his one and only son Abhimanyu. Krishna knew that, right? So it's apariharyam. You cannot complain over a fact. This is all going to happen, right? He is not telling Arjuna, but Krishna as Sarvajnaha must have known this, right? So apariharyarte natvam shochitum arhasi. Gatasuna gatasumsha nanu shochanti panditaha. In the second chapter we saw this. This is not only for loss of people, loss of things, can be loss of faculty, right? Being ready to lose the losable is a wise mind. A mind which is not prepared to lose the losable is a problem, right? So, Jnani enjoys emotional balance. Guru napi dukkhena na vichalyate. Right? Whatever is the problem, even the worst period, he is able to be equanimous. So, avikaritvam vikaraha means emotional reactions, right? And ubhayatra, both ishta prapti and anishta prapti, he is maintaining or enjoying samatvam. So this is Jivan Muktasya Lakshanam. In Bhagavad Gita, just so that you can go back and refer if you want, Sthita Prajna Lakshanam of chapter 2, right? Then Parabhakta Lakshanam of chapter 12, Gunatita of chapter 14, you will get the same details of Jivan Muktasya Lakshanam, right? So, Ishtanishtartha Samprapto Samadarshita Yatmani Ubhayatra Vikaritvam Jivan Muktasya Lakshanam. Sadhubhif Pujyamanesmin
साधुभिः पूज्यमानेऽस्मिन्
Pidyamanepi Durjanaihi
पीड्यमानेऽपि दुर्जनैः
Samabhavo Bhavedyasya
समभावो भवेद्यस्य
Sajivan Mukta Ishyate.
सजीवन्मुक्त इष्यते.
Sadhuvih pujyamane. A jnani will be respected by sadhu. Sadhu means noble people who appreciate a jnani, who admire a jnani, who value a jnani. They even worship a jnani, acharya upasanam, right? Thus, by noble people, the body of a jnani is considered, right, pujyamane. So they do pada puja, shodasha puja, etc. At that time also, he is not overexcited. People are worshipping. It's okay. He doesn't get excited about it, right? Asmin pidyamanepi durjanaihi. And same way, sometimes in certain situations, we are even concerned about overexposing our gurus, because the political situation may not be conducive for even that, right? Even amidst those kind of situations, a jnani is the same. He doesn't really bother whether people are criticizing him or whatever happens. So he's neither affected by this or that, right? So there may be people who love him, who worship him. There may be equally a set of people who don't like him, right? So it doesn't matter at all to such a person, right? So he doesn't get deeply disturbed. So Krishna also says in the Gita that it is a way of life, right? So it is fine. So there are some people who will talk behind the back, some people who will come and talk in front, right? Some of them will praise in front and talk differently outside. Such a jnani is not bothered about any of these happenings, right? So मन्निन्दया यदि जनः परितोषमेति नन्व प्रयत्न सुलोभो यमनुग्रहो मे, right? So many people, right, basically will help, will serve, will send money, lakhs of rupees for serving the world. But a jnani may not even be able to do that. He may be contributing in a different way. He is not getting bothered about that also. Whatever he does, and he moves on. And at the same time, if people insult him also, he is not affected at all. So, pidyamanepi durjanaha, even if he is hurt by evil people, swabhavo bhavedyasya, then the one who has got the swabhava, right, the samadarshana swabhava, the balanced feeling or equanimity, he is not having overwhelming excitement when puja or fame comes, and there is no hatred also when there is a problem, no depression also. Right? But he generally avoids agitation and impulsive reaction. But according to the situation, if the situation needs some correction and some action, the jnani will not hesitate to take those actions also. They are thought through. They are not impulsive actions. That's all. Right? So swabhava does not mean inaction or silent suffering. He can take samabhava, doesn't mean that he can take action, but it will be a thought through action, right? So Mahabharata Yuddham is an example of that, right? So maintaining the equanimity, but considering that this is a Dharma Yuddham, Krishna is actually asking Arjuna to take a decision, right? Tasmad yudhyasva bharata, he says it is a Dharma Yuddham, right? So the jnani responds calmly. So samabhavo bhavet yasya, the one who has got mental samatvam or balance, saha jivan muktaha ishyate, he is considered a jivan muktaha, right? And in spite of all the problems that a jivan mukta faces, he has the most beautiful mind. And vajradapi katorani mriduni kusumadapi lokottaranam chetansi konu vignatum arhati. So very nice subhashitam this is. When painful situations come, his mind is harder than a diamond. Vajradapi katorani mriduni kusumadapi. When it comes to compassion, right, his heart melts like a soft flower, right? So he's got both. So Adveshta Sarvabhutana Maitra Karuna Evacha, in 12th chapter we saw he cannot, of the Gita, he cannot withstand the pain of others, but he can withstand any amount of pain when it comes to himself. Vajradapi Katorani, harder than even diamond, Mriduni Kusumadapi, softer than a flower, Lokotaranam Chetansi is the mind of the jnani, right? So one who can understand the mindset of a jnani, right? Only if you know this, you will be able to understand the mindset of a jnani, is what is said in this Subhashitam. And such a person, right? Here we are talking about the Jivan Mukta Lakshanam, Saha Jivan Muktaha Ishyate, right? So, when we talk of Samatvam and equanimity of this Jivan Mukta Jnani, we think that this is achievable only through Jnanam, but actually studying, having gone through all this, if you're able to connect a very important point, even as a karma yogi who is practicing Dvaita Bhakti, as long as it is Nishkama Bhakti, this Samatvam comes, right? So it is not necessary that you have to be a Jivan Mukta Jnani. You start enjoying this even during Karma Yoga days, as long as you practice Nishkama Bhakti, right? And it is, even if it is Dvaita Bhakti. So in the 4 types of Bhakti, Artha, Artharthi, Jignasu and Jnani Bhakta. So Jignasu Bhakta comes under Nishkama Bhakta, right? So Nishkama, as even if it's Dvaita Bhakti, it is fine. If you have this attitude, right, you will enjoy equanimity. So that's why Krishna said, Yogastak kuru karmani sangam tyaktva dhananjaya siddhya siddhyo samo bhutva samatvam yoga uchyate. And sukhadukke same krutva labha labho jaya jayo. The same equanimity we can get even without Atma Jnanam. We discussed this in the last class. So that is Karma Yoga with Dvaita Bhakti and Nishkama prayer, right? It can even be my Ishta Devata who is the anchor, or Ishvara in the form of Nirguna Brahma also. Any of these are okay, right? So, but a Jivan Mukta here, obviously we are speaking about a Jnani, right? So, Vairagyam can give the same Samatvam. We must remember that, right? So now a very important question is, oh, can we do everything? Can we ask for everything for our families and then ask this at the end? No. This has to be the only prayer, the Nishkama prayer, Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha, or you can pray for Jnana Vairagya Siddhyartham, Jnana Prapti, that is Nishkama prayer. It cannot be one of all other prayers after doing everything, asking for everything, right? We must remember that. So this is a Jivan Mukta's life, and he enjoys equanimity. And Krishna describes Samatvam of a Karma Yogi quite a bit in Bhagavad Gita. And whoever has got this equanimity, Saha Jivan Muktaha Ishyate, he is considered a Jivan Muktaha. So sadhubhih pujyamanesmin pityamanepi durjanaihi samabhavo bhavedyasya sajivan mukta ishyate. Vijnata brahma tattvasya
Vijnata Brahma Tattvasya
yatha purvam na samsritihi
Yatha Purvanna Samsritihi
asti chetna sa vijnata brahma bhavo bahirmukhaha.
Asti Chenna Savijnata Brahma Bhavo Bahirmukhaha.
So, Vijnata Brahma Tattvasya. Suppose a person has clearly known the Brahma Tattvam. Clear knowledge means Paroksha Jnanam and Aparoksha Jnanam. Since many people forget this, I am again repeating. Paroksha Jnanam is Brahman is I, right, with respect to me. Aparoksha Jnanam is Brahman, which is the cause of universe, etc. When you say as third person, right? Brahman is the cause of universe, etc. That is Aparoksha Jnanam. Paroksha Jnanam is that Brahman I am, right? So Paroksha Jnanam, Paroksha Jnanam is Brahman is the cause of universe. Aparoksha Jnanam means I am that Brahman, right? Aparoksham means closest to you. So here Vijnata Brahma Tattvam is the name of a Jnani who has come to Aham Brahmasmi through Mahavakya Vichara. So Vijnata Brahma Tattva. So it's a Bahuvrihi Samasa. Vijnatam Brahma Tattvam Ena Saha. Bahuvrihi Samasa. So he will never have samsara. He will never be a samsari. So yatha purvam, as the samsara was there before, is not there now after jnanam, right? After jnana nishta, through shravanam, mananam and nididhyasanam, asti chain. Suppose a person says, I've got jnanam, I've got problems also. Suppose a person claims that I've got jnanam and I've got samsara, right? Samsritihi asti chet. If there is samsara in a person, saha na vijnata brahma tattva. He doesn't know Brahman, right? He doesn't know aham brahmasmi. It is just lip service. So when I use the word I, it can refer to anatma or shariratrayam also. It can refer to atma, which is the real I. So the shariratrayam is vyavaharika. The other one is paramarthika I. So for worldly transactions, I do need the vyavaharika I, which is based on the anatma. But the paramarthika atma, satyam jnanam anantam, is what you are claiming internally. Outside, of course, when you fill up forms, etc., you have to write your name, your PAN number, all of that, right? So when this question, are you a samsari or a samsari, the question comes at that time, the answer should be prompt. If a person has studied Vedanta, right, then clearly if the person knows and he's dwelling in the teaching, whether he tells outside or not, internally he knows aham atma, aham brahmasmi, right? So that jnana nishta he will know. He's very alert all the time and self-aware. So whenever the context comes, he's able to give in private or in front of a guru, he can do that. So otherwise, yes, mind-based reply, family-based reply, business-based reply. He can't say, I'm a karta, bhokta, etc. He has to say, I'm so-and-so working in some organization, etc. Right? So they will have to be addressed. So lifelong anatma situations have to be addressed, but that will never impact my answer to the question, my internal answer to the question or in front of a guru. Are you a samsari or a samsari? Are you a jivan muktaha or jivan baddhaha? A jnani will never hesitate. He can happily claim, I am a jnani. Right? So then what is basically jnanam? Jnanam means spiritually judging myself as ever free. So the second line here is asti chen nasa vijnata brahma bhavaha. Asti chet means as long as a person has intellectual or emotional samsara continuing, he cannot be called a jnani. So he is not a vijnata brahma tattvaha. So reason is bahirmukhaha. He continues to be an external person obsessed with the fivefold anatma. The pancha anatma obsession is there. Body, mind, possession, profession, right? So, and family, of course. I missed the family. So this person is bahirmukhaha. Therefore, he is not a jnani. He experiences samsara. So, vijnata brahma tattvasya yata purvam na samsritihi asti chen nasa vijnata brahma bhavo bahirmukhaha. So now we have completed the Jivan Mukta topic, right? Jivan Mukti topic, which is a very important one because the practical benefits of being a Jivan Mukta is tremendous because we are able to face life much better. And so Shankaracharya takes a lot of time, many verses to clarify this. And now we are going to talk about another result, another phalam in the form of Videha Mukti, which is a discussion of what happens to a jnani at the time of his physical death or the fall of the physical body, because the physical body is mortal. Even though jnani claims I am immortal, we have to remember that the body is mortal. So jnani has accepted the mortality of the body and he allows the body to fall whenever it has to fall. And it will fall at some time at the end of the prarabdha, and jnani's physical death, if you remember, is called in Kaivalya Upanishad, Vedanta Vijnana Sunishchitartaha Sannyasa Yoga Dyataya Shuddha Sattvaha Te Brahma Lokeshu Paranta Kale Paramrita Parimuchyanti Sarve. Right? Paranta Kala. Right? Paranta Kale Paramritata Parimuchyanti Sarve. So we must know the difference between Jnani's Parantakala and Jnani's Antakala, which is the topic of Videha Mukti. We will enter this topic in the next class. I'll stop here. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.